Hello, welcome back to this history class. Today I am going to continue with the Oduduwa history, the story of his life that I started. I titled it Who Was Oduduwa? Who was? In the first one that I made, a lot of people came up with a lot of things, and in the video I made yesterday, I clarified those things. Now today I'm going to continue by looking at where Oduduwa was born and then looking at Yoruba history to really see whether Ife rendition of Yoruba history actually claimed that Oduduwa came from outside of Ife. When you look at Akinjogbe, you look at Banji Akintoye, and some other professors of Yoruba history who have they have done a lot of work in Yoruba history, you would realize that it is wrong. The narrative that has been going around for this, over a century, that Oduduwa came from Mecca, is wrong. Yes. Now, in the book of Samuel Johnson, what's the name of this Sultan Bello? Yes. Did Sultan Bello actually said Oduduwa came from Mecca? No. Because there were two people who documented Yoruba history. One got his own information from outside of Yoruba land, and the other people got theirs from Ile-Ife. Now, the one that was outside of Yoruba land was by Clapperton. He was the one who spoke to Sultan Bello, and Sultan Bello said that the Yorubas, now listen very well, the Yorubas must have come from Mecca. Sultan Bello did not say anywhere that Oduduwa came from Mecca. It was people that interpolated what he said to mean that Oduduwa came from Mecca, or that Oduduwa came outside Mecca, and it was Samuel Johnson that did that. Now, as at the time Clapperton was, getting his own information from Sultan Bello, the Landa brothers, they were in Ife, and they were getting the story of Oduduwa from Ife. And in the Ife rendition, the Ifes told about the persona of Oduduwa who created Ife. They told them about the different Ifes that had existed. And then they told them that Oduduwa came from Okeora, and that Okeora, and that it was Abure that gave birth to him. Now, that is the authentic Yoruba history told by authentic Oduduwa history told by Ife people, whom Oduduwa originated from, whom Oduduwa unified. This was their own rendition, and it is what is found in the Oduifa. In fact, in the Oduifa, there is a verse that says that Oduduwa tó wá láti Obiri, ọmọ wọn lóbìrí, and in that rendition we see Okeora, we see is like is Agbole or something like this compound in Okeora. Now this will now take me to the narration. Now all these professors of history, of Yoruba history, have debunked that narrative of Oduduwa coming from outside of Ife. They've debunked it. That in the first instance, Sultan Bello never said that. Sultan Bello only spoke about Yoruba people. It was an interpolation by Samuel Johnson and by other people who are carrying this nonsense about. So, and I think that in all these articles and books written by some professors of history, Oduduwa came from Okeora is the rendition, because it was because they said that Oduduwa came from outside Ife, that the Beninese inserted their own nonsensical history. Now, to the Beninese who have been on the social media, shouting horse that Oduduwa came from them, that he was the son of Uwodo. The father of Oduduwa was Abure, not Uwodo. That's number one. In his orikiti, he is called Olofin Adimula. And I think I have talked about eulogy before. I've talked about what we call praise names in Yoruba land. The appellations, the praise names. In his praise name, he is called Olofin Adimula. Oduduwa, Omo Abure. That is from his praise name. So, why is it that in his praise name we don't have Oduduwa, Omo Uwodo? How come we didn't have that? That is that. Now, another thing we have to consider is what happened. What happened that Oduduwa? What did Oduduwa do to become the father of all the dynasties that are reigning in Yoruba land today? But let me also burst your bubble. Oduduwa is not the father of all the kings in Yoruba land. Yes. Many kings in Yoruba land trace their history to Oranfe, Onilena. Some even say they are the children of Obatala. Yes. Some are the children of Orunmila. For instance, Ojugbelu Arere, in some rendition, is called the son of Orunmila. In some, is called the son of Oduduwa. That's the founder of Owo. And so many other parts of Yoruba land. Some are children of Oranfe. Some are children of Orunmila. Some are children of Obatala, Obala. Now, what happened that made Oduduwa to become what he became? Who was actually Oduduwa in Yoruba history? Let me say this. Oduduwa did not give birth to the Yoruba race. Yes. And when they said he's the father of Yoruba race, what they mean to say is that Oduduwa was because our kings are seen as our fathers in Yoruba land. We see our kings as our fathers. Yes. Just like in history, in the history of the Jews, their prophets are seen as their fathers. You will realize that when Elijah was to be taken to heaven, Elisha said, "My father, my father, my father." The horsemen of Israel, the chariots of Israel and his horsemen. Who was he calling his father? It was the prophet Elijah. So in Yoruba land, we also have such tradition where our kings are seen as fathers and where our babalawos are also seen as fathers. That's why they call them Baba Alawo. And they will say Aborubo Yobaba. You see them as fathers. That is Yoruba cosmology, Yoruba beliefs, Yoruba traditions. So, the reason Oduduwa is seen as a father is because he brought a new system of doing things to Ife. He unified all the, scattered communities in Ife. Who were these scattered communities? Okay. After Ife Odaye, the deluge had destroyed them. Those who survived when in Ife Oyelago, they founded Ife Oyelago. Now these people were in different communities with their different kings. That was what was in Ife. Now these communities, they were about 13 to 16. They called them the Elus. And now they were in the valley of Ile-Ife, while Okeora was on the hill. Now, it is, in the history, it is the people who were in Okeora were actually the ones who were coming down. I think what took them to that must have been because of the deluge. Yes, it must have been because of the deluge. Because we have, some places in Yoruba land, especially a place like Idori, where it was events, occurrences that chased them up. The Ondos also used to live in such a place called Okeopa. So I think they were chased to the hill because of the deluge. Now, after the deluge, those who survived were the ones on the hills of, Okeora and some of the hills in Yoruba land around that place. So, after the deluge and the dry ground had appeared, they started coming down in batches. Yes, they started coming down in batches and started settling in communities with their different Olori or Oba kings. That was what happened. So they were like that for many years. When they settled in those communities, the valley was very good for agriculture. So those communities flourished. But those who were in that, they were still remaining in that Okeora community, they now started having skirmishes with those who settled in the valley. Now, it was those skirmishes that Oduduwa took, control of, to unite all these different communities and factions. They were always at loggerheads with one another. So it united them, and it now founded a central administrative system. That is how Ife only started. And that's how it started. And it became, with the help of Oba Mary and some other people, he became king over them. Before he could achieve this, he had to go into war with the rulers of those other communities. Now, many people said that it was because Oduduwa was a foreigner. That was why he had to fight with the people he met in Ife. It is not true. That's not what really happened. What really happened was that those communities were at loggerheads with one another, and the ones who were also coming down and going up were also at loggerheads with those in the valley. So what Oduduwa did was to unite everybody to be in the same, to belong to one community with different quarters. So they were in the kingdom, yet that kingdom was democratic. Because under the Oni, there were other Obas, like even up to now in Ife, different quarters of Ife have their Oba. For instance, the house of Oranfe, Onileina, has its own Oba that is called Oba. Is it Oba Lesu or so? Oba Lesu. And there are so many of them like that in Ile-Ife. They had their own communities, their own quarters. So what Oduduwa did was to unify all those communities into a bigger community. That we have just one head with different administrative quarters. That was what Oduduwa did in Yoruba history. And that is a system that is now all his children took to every other part of Yoruba land. Yes, that's a system of kingship they took to every other part of Yoruba land. For instance, Oromiyan went to Benin and met chiefdoms. They were in villages. They were not a united kingdom. He was the one who went there and united them into, he did the same thing Oduduwa did to the communities in Ife. That was what he did. That was the idea he took to Benin. That's the idea he took to Benin. The Godomigodo were people with different tribes. Yes. Who dwelled in their villages, in their own communities. So he went there, united those communities, and formed an administrative kingship line. That was what he did. So many of the Godomigodo people who didn't like that migrated out of Godomigodo and found other lands to go and settle. for Ife, the people did not migrate. Those who migrated were the children of Oduduwa, because in Yoruba land there had been other earlier migrations after the Ife Odaye perished in that deluge. Those who survived came down and, started some other few communities. They were a bit far away from Ife. So the children of Oduduwa went away to found other lands. That was what happened. It wasn't that because Oduduwa was a foreigner, he got there, he just wanted to usurp power from those who were there, and that was what happened, and that's to justify that he came from Ife. He came from Benin. No, he didn't. He was a member, because if he had come from Benin, where would he have found unknown Oba Mary that, cooperated with him to be able to unite those Elu communities? Where is it when he came from the forest that he now met Oba Mary and he was able to convince him? And how did he convince her? Because they were not speaking the same dialect or the same language, rather. So how did he now convince Oba Mary to be able to? How many months will it take him to teach Oba Mary the Edo language for her to be convinced enough to form alliance with him to unite those Elu communities? How would they have done that? Somebody was just coming from the bush, from the forest. How would he have done that? If he truly came from Migodo, he was the son of Odua, how would he have done that? How would he have formed alliance with Oba Miri and every other person he formed alliance with when he was not speaking their language? And how come today there is nothing in the appellation of Oduduwa that shows Mecca or that shows even Benin? How come? How come today there is nothing in Ife that shows that Oduduwa, who was their ruler for many years and taught them a lot of things, started a new system of administration, came from some other place and he just forgot his culture, he just forgot his dressing? In Benin, you people wear red clothes. In Ife, Olofin Adimula is whatever is white clothes. So how come? These are things, cultural artifacts. How come? So these are, things we need to explore in knowing who Oduduwa was, to be able to debunk all this nonsense these Benin people are revising, and it is so ridiculous. Because, you see the way I'm, bringing out facts, bringing out, content about Oduduwa from Yoruba history. They cannot. They keep fabricating, they keep going here and there. If they are not telling one tale by the moonlight today, tomorrow they are telling another tale. In my subsequent videos, I'll be building on this. Bye.